Welcome to Vator TV, the site on innovation and innovators. I'm Bambi Francisco, and I'm joined by one of the leading innovators in the video gaming world. He's Trip Hawkins. In 1982, Trip founded Electronic Arts, and in 2003, Trip founded Digital Chocolate. Trip, thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
How did you come up with the name Digital Chocolate?
Well, I was thinking about a lot of different name ideas, and I love names where you take two words that people are familiar with and they don't really belong together, and you put them together and you create something new. And I have to give my wife credit because she was the one who suggested the word chocolate. And I thought about it, I thought, okay, how about Digital Chocolate?
Well, it's a great name, as is Electronic Arts.
Well, thank you. You see the same principle. And of course, before that, I saw how well that worked with Apple Computer.
Mm-hmm. Another great brand, great name. Digital Chocolate has been around for 4 years. How has the adoption been for mobile gaming devices or video mobile games? Is that it?
Yeah, it's a really happening business. I mean, there are now, we're closing in on there being 3 billion people that have a mobile phone. Mm-hmm. And there's been kind of a tipping point where a lot of people have gone to a voice-only phone to one that's basically a computer on a network. They're called data phones or by other names. But with that many people having, carrying around a computer with them, there has been widespread adoption of things like browsing the internet, sending SMS messages. And for things like game downloads, it's a more sophisticated user behavior, so it's taking longer for the public to find out about it and start to do it. But we've sold over 30 million downloads, so it's still a very high volume business for us. We have millions of customers, and it's growing very fast.
You mentioned tipping point. Has this market, mobile gaming market, has that reached an inflection point?
I think it's in the process of growing up to be more like the internet. Mm-hmm. In the first generation of mobile data handsets, I think there were still some issues with the technology and with the infrastructure, and issues around do I have access to the network? Is it fast enough? How good is my handset? How am I paying for things? And then of course, it didn't really work the way the internet does, where from a marketing standpoint, if you have any kind of new service, how does the public find out about it? That's mm-hmm. called discovery. Mm-hmm. And then how do they get a chance to use it and see mm-hmm. what it is? Mm-hmm. Well, the web has viral discovery, mm-hmm. and it also has free trial. Mm-hmm. So those two mechanisms are very powerful, mm-hmm. and we're in the process now of bringing that way of thinking to mobile games. Mm-hmm. We saw how that affected the growth of SMS. I mean, SMS is really the one killer app that we've seen in mobile, and it mm-hmm. definitely spread in the same way because it's very inexpensive to use. And a lot of people found out about it because somebody sent them an SMS.
Right.
And it may not have cost them anything to receive the SMS, and of course initially they weren't even sure what it was. Maybe their friend had to say to them, "Did you get my message?" And they said, "I don't know what you're talking about. Well, let me show you on your phone, and here's how you reply, and here's how you triple tap." And sure enough, there's a huge number of Americans. There's over 100 people just in America that are using SMS. When I started Digital Chocolate, the experts in the industry were claiming that SMS would never happen in the U.S. They were saying, mm-hmm. oh, Americans, they don't want to triple tap. They'd rather do email. They'd rather talk on the phone. Mm-hmm. There's just in the U.S. alone now, there's over 150 billion SMS messages sent per year, and it's growing on a very steep curve. So clearly the experts were wrong. And what we have yet to see in mobile, though, is the proliferation of successful new services like mm-hmm. we've seen on the web. In the web, of course, even 10 years ago, you already had AOL and mm-hmm. Yahoo, and they were staking out these really big territories and offering a lot of services. And yet, still the internet was able to float Google and eBay and more recently things like MySpace and then Facebook and now other things like YouTube. There's a steady march of mm-hmm. major new services coming to the market on the web all the time, being discovered very easily, spreading virally, mm-hmm. becoming very big very quickly. So there's no doubt that phenomenon is going to repeat on mobile. It's just that the ingredients haven't all been there to ignite it and make it happen.
So we haven't reached the inflection point for mobile gaming. Will the iPhone help ignite some interest and drive growth? And what are the ingredients that you mentioned that will drive the market to that critical mass or that inflection point?
Well, the three big words that are themes around our business are social, casual, and mobile. Mm-hmm. Clearly, the public has a tremendous need for social capital these days because of a decline in traditional ways in which people made their social lives work. Everybody used to live in a small village, and they had a perfect social life. They spent the whole day with their family. They saw the same intimate friends every day. And now, particularly in urban life, people don't know their neighbors. And when they go out in public, they're surrounded by strangers. When they have to commute in their car, they're spending too much time by themselves. They're watching too much television by themselves. So there's a lot of social isolation. And the public, over the last 10, 20 years, they have rapidly adopted every new technology that's come along that helps enable them to have a better social life. So we're seeing this with the web, we're seeing this with mobile phones just because of mobile voice, you're seeing it with SMS, mobile email, numerous examples. That is a major economic driver. If you picture even just the mobile phones, there's close to 3 billion people that have a mobile phone. If you imagine that at least 1 billion of them are single, then those are people that are still very heavily driven by the mating instinct. They're looking to hook up, get married, have a family. If you've got 1 billion people that have that need, and they're already spending a lot of money to have nicer clothes and to have a nicer car and nicer furnishings and to make themselves more attractive, and then they have to go out and actually meet people. If that 1 billion people, if all they did with their mobile phone was spend as little as $8 a month on network services that were helping them with their social life, the way you see on the web, that by itself would be $100 billion a year in mobile data revenue. Well, in other words, it would come out of nowhere to do that because today all mobile data in the U.S. market, for example, is less than 10 billion, and 3 or 4 years ago it was zero.
So
the big upside potential has yet to be achieved in terms of social applications in mobile.
They have to socialize first, then hopefully they'll start playing video games.
Well, the reason I mentioned casual is that casual games in the last few years has emerged as a major new gaming market. The traditional game industry was more of a hardcore audience playing action games that required an immersion in very authentic, realistic graphics. What's happened in the last 5 years is that a gigantic mass audience has shown up that says, I don't really care about 3D graphics and performance, and I don't need a PlayStation 3. What I want is a simple, more accessible, more convenient way to play games, particularly if they connect me with my friends and have social qualities to them. And the word casual was initially used in the game market on the web. So there's an established category now called casual web games. But it really is a word that ought to apply now to this proliferation of casual platforms, including mobile phones, but also including games on your iPod. There will be casual games on your IPTV. You'll see casual games on in-flight systems on airplanes and in hotels. You're seeing them already happening as gadgets and widgets on websites like Facebook. There's just going to be a fairly widespread proliferation. And we and other companies, I think, are going to strive towards getting ourselves in a position where we can serve our customers across all these platforms.
I want to ask you what type of games people are playing on their mobile phones versus what they were playing on their computers. But just again, back to the iPhone, to what extent will that drive usage?
I think the iPhone is ultimately going to have a famous place in history. Hopefully for the iPhone, not like the Newton. The Newton gave birth to the PDA phenomenon, but didn't really benefit from the phenomenon. I think the iPhone will in fact be a commercial success. But more important than its commercial success, it's a bellwether moment because of the experience of the device and the fact that probably all of the hardware manufacturers and all of the operating system companies and everybody that's looking at the user experience, they're going to be trying to copy everything they can about the iPhone. So there ultimately will be a lot of devices and a lot of operators in the market with services that compare with the iPhone, and the iPhone will have been the leadership model for everybody to follow. At this point, it's hard to say exactly how much volume the iPhone will do by itself because it's a fairly expensive device. In America, it's limited to being on singular, but it could be a very commercially successful device.